Tonight, Craig Hanna is our guest. Please welcome him. We're going to discuss his formative years right now before he does his, this is great, presentation. You grew up in Cleveland.
Yeah, outside of Cleveland.
Outside of Cleveland. And I wanted to ask about your art school experience, but first, what kind of kid were you? What kind of artist were you as a kid with the Crayolas? How did that, did people see the promise right away?
Strangely enough, my brother actually showed a very, he was quite good at music, and my parents went full on. They got him the piano, got him the lessons, and I think they felt a little bit bad for me, for being the kind of shy. The older brother was a bit jealous, so I was kind of, I liked to draw always as a kid, and I got the sketchbooks and I got the pencils, and every Christmas I pretty much I got the art stuff, my brother got the music stuff. So.
And so was it like the idea of, well, I'm going to put this to good use, or was it right away you said, I have a knack for this, I can do this?
Yeah, I always just did it, and I mean, I wasn't incredibly athletic, a little bit, but maybe not really that much into like doing team things, so I kind of just sat and drew a lot. Yeah.
What were you drawing at that time?
I grew up in the countryside, so like dead birds, usually, anything, yeah, flowers. Sometimes I had no idea what to draw, and my mom would like make a flower bouquet and I would draw it. But, yeah, lots of wildlife, animals, trees, skies.
I guess it is hard to have the live bird sit still. So.
Yeah.
So you went to School of Visual Arts in New York in the 1990s. What was that world like?
Yeah, that was a little bit difficult because mid-90s there wasn't much painting going on. Everybody was doing performance art and installations, and it was quite frustrating because my thing pretty much was I really just wanted to draw and paint and maybe learn how to paint. So yeah, it was quite difficult. But as a graduate student, I realized we could audit undergraduate classes. And a friend of mine one day came in with a little small oil painting under his arm. And I said, wow, that's pretty amazing. Did you paint that? And he said, well, you know, we can audit these classes, so why don't you come with me? You know, you start working from life with your model, and you've got your brutally average painting in front of you, and then you can basically go to the Met or the Frick, and you can see Velasquez, you can see Sargent, you can see Rembrandt, you can see Rubens, and your eyes open up to all these new painters that sometimes you would just kind of walk by and not even notice.
How does an artist develop his or her own style? How does that come?
It's hard to speak about other artists. I mean, I only know what I did, and what I basically did was I just tried to learn the rules and then try to break the rules. You know, I wanted to really spend time and really establish a knowledge, and then once I had the knowledge, then I could kind of tweak it a little bit. And I guess like it's like music, you know, if you have to be able to learn your piece perfectly, and you know, in your sleep, and then you start to improvise, and then you start to add, and that's where your own personal kind of flavor comes in, I guess. Yeah. So when you look at a painting, you don't want to see the second first. You know, you want to see the painting first. Now, a lot of times today, I see too many painters that have this secret, unique little style that they've come up with, you know, but there's no substance behind it, underneath it. You know, it's kind of interesting. So you need the substance, and then the style's the last thing you should probably notice. It just takes time too. It just takes a lot of time. Experimentation too. You know, by trying and experimenting with lots of different things.
Well, perhaps then you can show us some of the substance of these other painters that were...
Okay, super quick slideshow. This is one of my later ones. The plexiglass that I use, I just discovered comes in larger sheets, so I wanted to try to put together a multiple figurative painting just to utilize the size of the plexiglass. So this was a rather ambitious one, but it came out pretty good. I'm happy with it. This was oil on canvas. I still do the traditional oil on canvas too. So this was a painting of my wife and child back in Ohio, where I'm from. It's a river where I used to fish. This is one of my better models. He's a dancer. He's not dead. Everyone thinks he's dead. He showed it to his mother. His mother's almost cried. Again, I wanted to just try a very classical one, and we met this interesting chap who was had quite an unusual face, so we posed him in an old vintage suit. He posed for me. I wanted to just see if I could pull it off, and it came out. Now these are the squares like you see over there. This is the size of the heads I've been doing. So I just use friends, I use models, I hire actors or dancers or, pretty much a lot of different people pose. That's the clothes, the same guy's the clown. That was more of a study for the dancer, Vladimir. And the smaller ones too are a little bit more exciting because I can experiment a little bit more when the format's quite small, as you can see, so I can play a little bit. And using the inks on the plastic is kind of still a little bit new, so I'm always experimenting and playing with different ways to kind of create the illusion of reality. That's oil on wood. That's also oil on wood. So these are about 4-hour poses. So the model comes in and poses for about 4 hours. Sometimes 2 different poses. And then I do landscapes. This was in Cornwall, Connecticut. I think those are the Catskill Mountains back there. That's just a quick one, maybe 2-3 hours. When you do landscapes, you don't have a lot of time because the light changes so quick. So that's in Normandy. Just a quick morning sketch. These are about the same size as the portrait over there on the table. It's a nice break sometimes to do landscapes. It just doing the really large paintings with multi-figures can be a little bit exhausting, so sometimes it's nice to just run outside and play around with some landscapes. This is the sea in Normandy, which I have fallen in love with. It's incredibly difficult to paint because the tide is so fast. The first time I ever did it, I usually draw first, and then by the time I finished the sky, the sea had already gone out. And I was like, where's the sea? It was pretty funny. So you have to go really, really fast on these. That's just a drawing. I always do a lot of drawing before I actually paint. Just to kind of familiarize myself with the anatomies. This is another oil pastel. I use a lot of oil pastels. This is just probably a 3-4 hour photo. That was a painting you saw earlier, so this was just a sketch and a study. I always do studies first before I paint. That's just a quick charcoal nude. This is one of my new models who's been posing for me. Yeah. That's again Vladimir. That was another sketch for the long one that you saw. That's a quick little watercolor. That's another oil pastel. And that's the gallery on Blue Boulevard. And I think that's it. Yeah.
And something occurred to me while we were looking at those. We were kind of flying through your paintings.
Yeah.
And that probably is kind of a sacrilege in some way, to look so quickly. Not as a painter, but as somebody who appreciates art. How much time do you spend in front of a painting just to really understand it and get it?
Oh, you mean when a painting that I'm looking at?
Yes, the painting you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, well, when I was starting to learn how to oil paint, I mean, it's so hard. No one really teaches it anymore, so the only way you can really learn is by going and looking at these paintings. And yeah, sometimes I would go back and forth. I used to live on the Upper West Side, and I would run across the park and go to the Met, and I would just basically observe paintings like intensely. setting off a lot of alarms, always. The guards hated me. But that's how you would learn. I would go to the Met and pay my quarter and just go look at one painting, you know, for weeks, and then go back and also draw. I would draw them a lot. That was always very important. Just sit in front of a painting and sketch it. That way you really can start to understand and see. And it's interesting because you go back to your studio and you're painting and you're like, ah, that's how he did it. You know, and then you go back and you're like, oh, okay, I see the brush strokes, and you start to realize that how it works. Yeah. So I spend a lot of time in front of paintings.
So, your career really took off once you were here.
Yeah.
Thanks to Laurence.
Yeah.
In the Inno Gallery. What is it about Paris and its relationship to art specifically, do you think, that made things work for you here rather than when you were in London or the United States?
It's very strange. It took me a long time to try to figure it out. What I've come up with is that, I mean, somebody comes into the gallery and the last thing they care about is this painting going to be a commodity? Is this painting going to be a good investment? How much does this painting cost? Is he an up-and-coming painter? Did he win the Guggenheim Fellowship? Is he going to be the next Jeff Koons? These are all the things the modern art world has seemed to kind of dominated. But the French people that I've met that come in, they want to know who my inspirations are. They want to know who the model is. They never ask the price. They love the painting, you know. And I guess it just comes from a culture of growing up with it, possibly. I mean, I don't really know, but they just, I don't know, it seems that it's just taught and a part of the culture from the beginning of school, or just passed down from generation to generation, and it's just more, and I'm not sure, I really don't know. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit then how it worked when you first got here and how you arrived at the very unique relationship with the gallery.
I was living in London and I was painting, and I had a few dealers and I was making a living. I was, you know, kind of plugging along. I did a few dog portraits, a few baby portraits, you know, to keep the money coming in. And I went to New York, strange enough, and met a friend of mine who was a graphic designer, and he just put me on a blog that I didn't even know he did. And I just started getting emails from people.
And what year is it?
This was like, Laurence, what year was that? I don't know. When did you first email me?
I think it was in 2006.
2006? 2006?
Yeah.
And Laurence had seen a painting on this blog, and she emailed me, and we started talking back and forth. And she expressed an interest in possibly buying one, which made me incredibly happy, because the rent was due. And I sent a friend of mine over to meet her, because I had a friend of mine who lived in Paris. And he met Laurence at her house, and he basically called me and said, just get over here right away, because this woman's amazing and she has incredible taste. And you know, so I put the painting on the Eurostar. I just folded it up and kind of got a little trolley, and I brought it over, and I hung it in her house for her, and we just became great friends. And then I went back to London, and then like she called me and said one of her neighbors was interested in a painting, and then I came back, and then it just dawned on us, and she had always wanted to have a gallery, that she said, well, why don't we rent a space somewhere and just try it for a month. So I like got a van and loaded all my paintings in the van and got on the P&O ferry and came across, and we took a chance, and we sold almost everything, so it worked really well. And then we got a more permanent space, and we've just been going strong ever since. Yeah.
And you had told me this is without a contract, which I think
Yeah,
is
we're
unique.
just, we're like a family now. Yeah, so.
Do you know any other artists who have that kind of arrangement?
No, I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty lucky, I guess. Yeah.
So, but your actual work in your studio is at a different location. Take us through like a typical day.
Yeah, I used to kind of work where I lived, and it's not good, because you need to kind of get away from it sometimes, you know. So as it is now, I live in Belleville, so I have to go all the way to the Pantheon, which is what is that? Fifth, yeah. So it's a good bike ride, and it kind of, plus it's like I only can really work for 4 or 5 hours without totally burning out. So sometimes I'll walk home or I'll walk back, and it's just nice to cross the city and get out of the studio.
And so you arrive there in the morning and then?
Yeah, I hire models, so usually I get a model. I'll have a model for 3 hours, and then after the model, I'll work on these or some bigger paintings. It's hard. You have to, when you're freelance, you have to make yourself do it. So sometimes it's a little hard. Monday mornings, sometimes it's hard to get out of bed, And after you finish a painting, you have to come up with a new idea for a new painting, and that's always a little bit difficult. So I spend a lot of time in museums as well, and I'll travel around the country, or I'll go to Norway or something and see some Edward monks, or I'll get these little new obsessions with new painters, and I'll try to get ideas and inspirations from those.
And so then you have that in mind, let's say when the week begins, and you say, okay, I want to have this kind of model, this gender, this age, this body type, to pose this way, or is it just sort of come?
Sometimes the model will come in and it will be a unique person with a unique style or dress sense, and I'll play like when I met Zola, it was I saw the Crocs and I'm like, we got to do the Croc painting, So they do bring a lot of inspiration sometimes, the models. Yeah, I'll get an idea from looking at a painting. Maybe I'll go see the Hakusai exhibition and I'll say, okay, wow, look at those color schemes, and I'd love to do a painting in those color schemes, and then it's a process of putting together, the model, the wardrobe, the color scheme, all those different things. So it's something I'm always aware of. I'll be riding my bike down the street and I'll see a van with graffiti on it with very strange colors that I've never seen, and I'll stop and almost crash and have to make little notes. And I'm always constantly looking for ideas for paintings and colors, and it's just, I'm always affected by it.
And so how many works are you doing per week? If you have no quota or anything, if you're freelance, then you're setting your own goals, basically.
Yeah, I work a lot, and I just, honestly, I don't know what else to do. I'm only happy when I'm working, you can ask my wife. So, yeah, if I'm not working, I don't know what to do. I'll go a little crazy. So I like fishing. I can't fish in Paris. So sports help. Drinking, you have to watch that. So I'm trying to be very disciplined. That's why a lot of artists, I think, are alcoholics or drug addicts, just because they have so much time on their hands. You have to be disciplined.
And how do you choose to work on plexiglass, for example?
Well, I was doing traditionally canvas, oil on canvas, oil on board, and it just always looked classical. It didn't look modern, and I just wanted to try something different. I just thought your painting should represent the time you live in, and my paintings just looked like old Dutch masters. They just didn't look new. And no matter what I did, I tried maybe dressing them in modern wardrobes and things, and it looked trite. And I had a friend who suggested I try painting on different materials. He was an architect, so he said, why don't you try using Finnish plywood, which was a kind of plywood you make furniture out of that comes pre-dyed in different colors. And I did that for quite a while. But it was still the paint and the brush. It was still always the same. It was still oil on brush, and it just never looked different, And then just randomly, I just tried plexiglass. And originally I did oil on top of plexiglass, and it looked great, but after about an hour it dried and peeled off. So I'm like, that's not gonna work. So then I tried acrylic, and acrylic worked. And then I realized, I could turn it over and see from the back. And then I started to dilute the acrylic paint with a gel medium. And then I said, well, maybe I could use ink. So then I tried about 500 different types of inks, and then finally found one that worked, and I've just been constantly experimenting with it. And it really freed me up, because I don't have to now be so conceptual about how to be modern. I can paint classical figures with drapery, that's what I love, on the perspex, and it just looks different. It looks modern now. So even if the subject matter is as old as what I just showed you, it still looks modern because it's a different material.
I know that several people, famous people, have your paintings, like Kevin Spacey and Drew Barrymore, and I'm wondering, what does that do for you when you're working to have that level of attention? Does that change your process at all? Are you conscious of that? Do you put it on your mind?
It is kind of strange that when you paint in your studio every day by yourself, for yourself, you don't really care what other people think, or you do, but you're just not aware of them so much. So it's your own personal little battle. What I care about more is whether it's going to be as good as Whistler, or as good as Velasquez or something. I recently sold a painting to a museum, and that actually now changed the way I think and feel, just because I'm aware now that it's going to be seen by a lot more people, so I have to be a little bit extra good. I have to render the hand a little better than I normally would have,
As I said in the introduction, we see your work on billboards and kiosks competing with movie posters, which, as I understand it, is fairly unique for contemporary painters.
Yeah.
So it's kind of an active decision to put money into that kind of advertising. How did that decision come about?
It was a brilliant idea that Danny had, who runs our gallery. We've had a lot of trouble trying to break into these art fairs that go on. I mean, everybody has heard of Frieze and the FIAC and the Armory Show and the Art Basel in Miami. And these shows are so important to get into, because this is how you reach the curators of all the museums, this is how you reach your patrons. But the problem is the way they're run, it's such a mafia, it's impossible to get in. We've tried, and we've got rejected every time. So instead of spending the money on getting into these fairs, which are very expensive, I mean, I think a booth for a fair costs $50,000 to $100,000. We decided to just do it on our own and just take out our own poster and do it. Weirdly enough, Courbet did the same thing. I mean, Courbet was so sick of being rejected by the Salon, he had enough of it, and he had his own exhibitions outside of that, and showed his own work. Whistler did the same thing. Whistler was never accepted by the establishment, and he would just have his own shows and advertise his own work. So that's what we're doing, and it's worked incredibly well.
Is there any kind of concern for overexposure? Does that play? Usually the problem is the opposite.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I have no idea.
When Crocs comes to you and asks if they can use it for advertising.
Yeah, right.
So your paintings sell for quite a bit. The one that's here, I believe, am I allowed to talk about that? I think so. Is 25,000. You have a painting that is 150,000 euros. I guess this is kind of following the other question. Is you're not deciding that. How do you think about that as you're painting? Do you say, well, this is a very large painting, I'm doing a large painting, I know that has that value, or do you really put it out of your mind completely?
Yeah, I mean, that's the key in having an amazing gallery with, Laurence and Danny have the most incredible knowledge of what's going on, and they just, that's their thing, and they know exactly what they're doing. And they're very aware of what's going on, and they keep an eye on everything, and other artists, and other painters, and other galleries, and they set their prices, and they know what they're doing. I don't really ever have anything to do with the money side of it, which is nice, because before I met them, I used to have to paint the painting, sell the painting, promote the painting. It was a disaster. I was the worst salesman. I would give them away. Do you like it? Take it. That was terrible.
We are going to open the floor to questions, but I have one more. I did kind of promise the Freud story, so you told me about this once.
It's kind of a fun story. I was looking for a studio in London, and I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and I was walking down the street, somewhere near Notting Hill area, Kensal Rise, and I saw a little sign in the window that said, studio for rent. And I'm like, oh wow, this is a really nice studio. I definitely can't afford it. But I rang the lady, and she said, yeah, come over, check it out. So I was just more curious to see the great studio I couldn't afford. And she took me through it. I looked at it, and I was like, oh, this is pretty nice. And she's like, you want to come up and have a cup of tea? And I'm like, sure. So I'm walking up the stairs. This is like an English kind of not a brownstone, but just an English kind of house. Nothing spectacular, but with a bit of an industrial kind of it was a carriage house entrance. And that was the studio, the carriage house. As I'm going up the stairs, I'm seeing these kind of Lucian Freud prints that I see. It looks like a Freud print. And I'm sitting down, and I see a photograph of Lucian Freud and somebody and some people, and And I realized that halfway through the tea that I'm sitting with Bella Freud, the daughter of Lucian Freud. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting. So immediately, of course, I took the studio. And I was like way overpriced, but I took it anyway. And I used to like leave the door wide open, you know, and I would paint, hoping that Lucian would come in and give me a crit, you know. But unfortunately, he never came in. Yeah, that was it. And she drove me crazy because she wore high heel shoes constantly, and she was like charging around above me. And it was like, I couldn't bear it. So I didn't last too long there. Yeah, that was kind of a funny story.
Do you have any paintings that you spent a lot of time on, first in drawings and different studies and things that you abandoned because it's just not where you wanted to go?
Yeah, a lot of times you start a painting and they're fun to start. You know, you have ideas of how it's going to be and how you want it to be, and you run into struggles and battles, and it just sometimes the best thing to do is just put it aside and start a new one. And then, you know, hopefully something will dawn on you, or you'll run into an idea of how you can fix it. Sometimes you'll paint a bad painting, and there's just nothing you can do about it. But you learn from the bad ones, and then you hopefully will do a better one.
Do you continue to try to rework something that you feel like I'm not getting it right?
Yeah, I've had some serious battles. Sometimes then, weirdly enough, you'll come up with a new technique. You know, like scraping. I've had one painting where it was a disaster and I started scraping it off and I realized, ooh, that looks like a woodcut, that's really interesting, maybe I can do that. And then I started employing that as a method of painting. Also, I discovered that I could actually use a handheld sander on these Perspex paintings. And I've been using that. So sometimes a mistake can turn out into a beneficial new technique.
And for example, the painting that's here tonight, and some that are in your book that you bought, does this painting look the way that you conceived it in your mind's eye when you began?
Yeah, because what I'll do is I'll draw him a lot and oil paint him a lot, and then I'll come up with a color scheme, and then I pretty much have it in my mind. Once in a while, something accidental happens, but I kind of plan it. I have lots of sketches. I keep a million studies and sketches, and I plan them in pretty much a lot of detail. Yeah.
Are there any questions?
I'm looking at your work for the first time here, looking for sameness in these things in my hand here. Do you ever do teeth or smiling in your portraits?
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing is, when you pose, it's going to be hours and hours and hours of posing, so try to smile for 4 hours.
It doesn't work.
Yeah, it doesn't work. So you do get this, I mean, sometimes people complain, like if it's a commissioned portrait, sometimes people complain that like, oh, you look so sad, but it's not really sad, it's just time, you know. You have a certain look after 4 hours of being in a cold studio. Yeah.
It comes through.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's your critique of some of the other contemporaries who do the same kind of painting that you do? I'm thinking, I mean, for me, it's clear that Freud is a very important influence for you.
Yeah.
How about Bacon? How about some of the other people that you are seeing producing right today?
Yeah. No, I left out a lot of people on the slideshow. There's not that many people that are painting right now that I like. I know there's a girl, Jenny Saville. You heard of Jenny Saville? She's a very good painter. There was a painter, Ewan Uglow, but I think he's passed away. I don't know so many figurative painters now that are actually painting that I like. I mean, I'm open to finding and discovering them, and I'm always looking, but I haven't seen too many.
So you're not like the Americans in Montparnasse in the 30s who, you're not part of a big group of people who do all this stuff.
I want more artist friends. All I know is writers. Yep.
I actually have a question, not about your work, but
Okay.
One of the ways that this talk was pitched was to see what it's like being an American living in Paris and working. And having just been through the Sengen visa process myself,
Yeah.
I'm just wondering how you dealt with visa, residency, all those sort of practical things.
Dossier that big.
Right. I mean, did you go through that?
Yeah, we hired a Madame Mora, who was my lovely Scottish lawyer advocate, and we went many, many times to the prefecture, and I miss her actually, we spent so much time together, we had, it was, never ending, but what I had to do, my wife's,
You finally got your carte bancaire?
I got my carte de blanche, or my carte vitale. My wife's English, so I had to basically set up a thing where she could support me or something. It was the tractor and the cart or something. I don't know the way she described it, but I got it. It took a long time, but yeah, we got it. Yeah.
And when I'm looking for things to draw and paint and stuff, I always end up choosing people around me, landscape drawing, that sort of thing. And I've got absolutely no idea why I do what I do. Why do you, because you do this a similar sort of thing, you know, portraits, so friends, certainly landscapes. I mean, a lot of studio students I've seen as well, like, you know, the self-portrait you've got in the gallery. Why is that? Why do you choose these things?
I guess I'm just empirical. What I see is, I fall in love with things I see, you know, I'm not so conceptual. Like, right now, if I had to draw a horse out of my head, I probably couldn't, you know. I like to observe what I see. I'm kind of more, I get obsessed with the subtleties of the sea changing by the hour, you know, like that's the way I think. So it's, I'm just, I'm visually, emotionally affected by what I see and what surrounds me. So I can only paint what I see, basically, yeah.
Right. Do you get I know you like to paint the models that come in that you love, that you find, you're given commissions, are there commissions where you really don't want to take them, the person does not interest you, you do not want to paint them? Do you refuse people, or is this a difficult thing?
Yeah, it's a dangerous trap because they take a long time, you know, I mean, to do a commission portrait can take a month. So the month I'm doing that commission portrait is a month I'm not painting what I want to paint. So
And the person, if you don't feel anything coming from the person, how can you do this?
it's hard, it is hard, yeah. I mean, I have painted people in the past that was, yeah, they're not incredibly inspiring, but you know, I mean, with the right lighting and I can pretty much find some interest, but yeah, it can be a problem.
Actually, I'd like to add one thing, but conversely then, do you see people at a cafe that you say, I must paint you, and you actually try to...
Well, I get busted staring at people sometimes on the subway, and they think I'm a weirdo, but yeah, I mean, when I was sculpting, I tried sculpting, which was a disaster. I liked it and I got quite into it, but sculpting was a completely different thing, and you really have to understand the face and how it works, and I was always staring at people, you know, like, where's that bottom eyelid? Is it higher or lower than the top eyelid? And on the metro, people were thinking I was like absolutely insane. But yeah, I'll see people that I really like. I mean, Laurence is great because she can help me find models. I have a friend who teaches at the École des Beaux-Arts. She's a teacher of morphology, and she gets a lot of models. There's a lot of professional models in Paris, which is great. A lot of dancers, a lot of actors. So I have so many, you know. This gentleman here is 85 years old, and he's my new muse. He's amazing.
What do you know now about painting that you wish you knew as a high school kid in Cleveland?
Oh boy. Oh man, I know that's a tough question. If I knew what I knew now when I was a kid, boy, I'd be Picasso. No, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, it's a tough one.
So maybe just a follow to that, you mentioned when you were painting, when you first got to New York, that you would take your paintings, or you would go to the Met, and you would take, I think you used something like your crappy painting and you'd compare it to the masters.
Yeah.
So how did you use that experience to not get discouraged?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there's a certain excitement in being able to do something well. Like I could actually draw quite well, and some of my teachers were actually, they saw that. It's a strange thing. Yeah, it's like when you know you can do something, and you do it, and it comes out really good. You're really proud of it, but then you see one that's even better. So you wanna even go farther. So it's a little bit of competitive in a way, but it's your own ego, I guess, that's competitive. I'm not sure. Yeah.
How do you know when a painting is finished?
That's tough. Yeah, that's a tough one. Usually I'm just sick of it. Yeah, sometimes what the weirdest thing ever is the fact that I have a gallery right next to my studio. I can finish a painting, have a client come in to the studio to see it, buy it, and it never even gets hung on the wall. And that's strange, because sometimes I need to look at them for a while. And often I will go back to the person's house who bought that, and I'll be like, wait a minute, I gotta fix that. I'll be like, and they're like, don't touch my painting. I'm like, wait a minute, it's my painting, let me. I think Bonnard was famous for that. He would be, 50 years later, he'd still have his pastels and he was trying to fix something. So, yeah, they're never done. They're never done, really. I mean, they're hanging on the wall or they're sold, but I always get better as I get older, I find, thank God. So I always see mistakes, always, in the old paintings.
You got this powerful rawness of color. This one especially, this guy, and Simon with the red nose and the red ears. The color thing, I wanted to ask you, in your studio, when the person is sitting there, are you experimenting with the light and the color on their faces, or does it come out of the brush?
Yeah, the longer you observe, the more you see. So a lot of times I'll try to be as true to the color as it is in existence with the oil paint. But when I work on the ink, it's impossible to get that pure truth. The truth of the color I can never get it with the ink. So I tend to push it to an extreme, because these inks come in these really pure, vibrant colors. So it's really difficult. Those paintings aren't, there's not so much truth in authenticity of the actual color in these paintings. It's more about the overall composition. But with oil paint and with oil pastels, I can be a little bit more true to the realistic colors of the face and the body. Yeah.
Well, I have one more question, and then we can have some more wine and maybe talk to you individually. Do you think about legacy and 50 years from now? If you're not at your age walking in and trying to fix things in someone's house, but I mean, do you think about what your reputation would be like and where your paintings would be?
Yeah, retrospect at the Met, maybe. No, I don't think about it. No, I can't think about it. Yeah, I mean it's something to look forward to. It's always nice to look forward to something. Museum collections is I guess the thing to look forward to. To be able to have a painting hang in a museum that I used to go to and be in awe over other paintings. To have my own painting in there would be the ultimate dream. So that's something to work towards, I guess. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very much.